Long before our world looked the way it does now, whispers spoke of a radiant empire that rose from the sea and vanished just as swiftly. Imagine a tale carried across centuries, reshaped by memory yet impossible to extinguish. A story so persistent, so strangely familiar, that it feels like a distant recollection rather than a myth. What if the heart of that tale held something real? What if the echo of an ancient world lingered beneath the surface, waiting for someone like you to listen? Picture yourself in a sunlit courtyard of ancient Greece, stone columns casting cool shadows, as a thoughtful philosopher begins to speak. His voice is calm, deliberate, yet tinged with urgency. It's Plato, one of the sharpest minds in history, and he claims he is not the originator of what he's about to recount. He insists this story came to him through generations, beginning with Solon, a respected lawmaker who heard the account from Egyptian priests. They, in turn, said the memory was far older than the pyramids themselves. Doesn't it make you wonder how many lifetimes a single tale can travel through? Plato wove this account into two of his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, not as decoration, but with purpose. He believed the tale carried meaning too weighty to ignore. And there, inside his philosophical discussions about the universe and the nature of a perfect society, sits the description of a powerful island realm beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the point we now know as the Strait of Gibraltar. That one clue ignited centuries of quests. Why place a great civilization in the open ocean, far from the familiar lands of Greece? What truth was he hinting at? From his words emerges the image of a maritime empire, flourishing on an island unlike any other. Picture a people said to descend from a god, carrying a heritage of wisdom and virtue. Their land overflowed with natural wealth, gleaming metals, fertile soil, and resources that set them apart in power and prestige. Among these treasures was a radiant substance described as glowing like fire, mysterious orichalcum, used not sparingly but abundantly, as if their world shimmered from within. Now imagine walking through their capital city. The design is astonishing, a perfect pattern of alternating rings of land and water, each circle connected with bridges so meticulously crafted they seem almost unreal. Can you see the reflection of their structures rippling across the canals? At the heart of these rings stood towering temples and palaces, monuments to their faith and authority. Everything about the city suggested order, balance, and an unwavering dedication to beauty and function. Their society wasn't chaotic or haphazard. It was ruled by 10 kings, descendants of a divine union: Poseidon, the god of the sea, and Cleito, a mortal woman whose home once rested on a simple hill. Their children became the first rulers, divided into regions but united under ancient laws said to be established by their divine father. For generations, harmony shaped their governance. Can you imagine a world where power didn't corrupt at first, where leaders saw themselves as guardians instead of conquerors? Within the city, temples gleamed with metallic luster. The great shrine of Poseidon was said to be covered in silver, crowned with gold, and filled with materials that glowed with warm brilliance. Inside, enormous statues rose from the floor, capturing gods and spirits in radiant detail. It must have been breathtaking, walking among structures that felt alive, illuminated, almost humming with energy. But the marvel didn't end with architecture. The Atlanteans engineered water systems that channeled hot and cold springs through baths for citizens, rulers, and even animals. Their canals moved effortlessly through the urban rings, supporting trade, travel, and life itself. Imagine how advanced their understanding must have been to shape nature so precisely. Were they simply gifted engineers, or did they harness principles we've long forgotten? Their navy was equally formidable. Vast docks and harbors hosted fleets capable of crossing enormous stretches of ocean. Their ships, built from resources unique to their land, projected confidence and authority. It is here that you might pause and ask, how far could such an empire have reached? How many shores felt the presence of their sails? As generations passed, the Atlanteans lived in abundance, rich in spirit and environment. For a time, their prosperity did not spoil them. They honored the ancient laws, valued justice, and maintained a sense of humility before the powers that shaped their world. Imagine waking each day in a place where beauty was everywhere, where purpose was woven into the fabric of daily life. But even in such a golden age, shadows gather quietly. No civilization, no matter how enlightened, is immune to change. And deep within their story, subtle cracks began to form, tiny fractures in the harmony they had long cherished. It is here that you feel the pull of something inevitable, a shift stirring beneath the surface, not yet seen but already unfolding. And as this gentle fracture widens, you can sense a question rising. How long can any society remain perfect when human nature begins to drift? At first, the shift was so subtle that even the wisest among them barely noticed it. Wealth accumulated a little too easily. Pride settled comfortably into the hearts of leaders who once lived with restraint. Their unity, once their greatest strength, began to thin like strands pulled apart by unseen hands. It makes you wonder how often the decline of a great civilization begins not with disaster, but with quiet changes that go unspoken. What delicate balance was slipping from their grasp without anyone realizing? Over time, the grace that once defined the Atlanteans eroded. The laws carved into stone and memory were still recited, still honored in ceremony, yet in practice they slowly weakened. The original spirit behind them dimmed. Leaders who once viewed themselves as guardians began to hunger for more than stewardship. Desire replaced duty. Their empire, vast and admired, no longer seemed enough. Isn't it strange how abundance can open the door to dissatisfaction rather than contentment? Their ambitions grew beyond their island's boundaries. They began to look outward, toward neighboring lands, toward rich continents that called to them with both opportunity and temptation. In their rise, they had been admired. In their decline, they became feared. Armies that once stood for defense transformed into engines of expansion. The kings sought dominion over other nations, convinced that their advanced society granted them the right to rule wherever their ships could reach. Plato wrote that the Atlanteans stretched their influence into Europe and across regions near the Mediterranean. Imagine the shock of those who lived peacefully along distant shores, suddenly confronted by a sophisticated power from the ocean's edge, shining with metals they had never seen, arriving with fleets beyond counting. The Atlanteans claimed territory with a confidence bordering on certainty. They believed their divine origins justified their ambition. But does any civilization truly succeed once hubris becomes its compass? While the Atlanteans pushed outward, a different force quietly gathered in the lands of ancient Greece. Among them rose the Athenians, a people who valued courage, discipline, and resilience. Though smaller in comparison, their unity and determination forged strength beyond numbers. When faced with the expanding Atlantean Empire, they chose not to yield. Instead, they resisted, driven by a belief that freedom was worth defending even against a power as formidable as Atlantis. Here, the story shifts into something grander, almost mythic. Two great forces, one driven by pride, the other by principle, collided in a struggle that would shape the fate of both. The Atlanteans pressed forward with confidence, expecting swift conquest. Yet the Athenians, though outmatched in wealth and magnitude, fought with an intensity that surprised their enemies. You can almost feel the tension rising, the clash of ambition and resolve echoing across the ancient world. Battles surged across landscapes and shorelines. Ships met in violent storms of wood and metal. Armies clashed under unfamiliar skies. The Atlanteans, once unstoppable, began to falter. Their opponents struck not from arrogance but from unity and purpose, the very qualities Atlantis had lost. How ironic that the very virtues the Atlanteans abandoned became the ones that defeated them. In time, the tide turned. The Athenians pushed the Atlanteans back across the sea, reclaiming lands seized by the empire. What began as a confident campaign of expansion ended in retreat and disarray. The defeat pierced Atlantis at its core, exposing a vulnerability they had long ignored. Their pride had led them into a conflict they believed they could not lose, yet they emerged from it weakened, shaken, and uncertain. And this is where the most dramatic turn begins, a shift from human conflict to natural catastrophe. As the Atlanteans attempted to rebuild their authority and stabilize their fractured society, a force far greater than war revealed itself. Plato described what happened next with somber finality, painting a picture of a world shaken to its foundations. But if his account holds even a sliver of truth, something extraordinary occurred on that fateful day. Without warning, the sea roared with unnatural fury. The ground trembled beneath their feet. Violent quakes shook the island, tearing through buildings, temples, and harbors. Fires burst upward as if the earth itself had cracked open. Walls of water rose where calm ocean once lay. Imagine standing in a city built on perfect circles, now watching those circles shatter as nature unleashed its power. What thoughts must have raced through their minds as everything familiar collapsed around them? The catastrophe struck with such force that the entire island was swallowed. Not just damaged. Not just broken. Consumed. Plato wrote that in a single day and night, the island of Atlantis disappeared beneath the sea. Think about that. A world once filled with light, color, and magnificent structure vanished without leaving a trace on the surface. The people, the temples, the canals, the rings of water and land, all pulled under, their brilliance extinguished in a moment beyond comprehension. And if this really happened, what could have caused such devastating destruction? Could an enormous volcanic eruption have torn the island apart? Could shifting tectonic plates have dragged it into deep trenches? Perhaps a violent tsunami engulfed it faster than anyone could flee. Or maybe the truth rests somewhere beyond the theories we understand today. No matter the cause, the impact must have been unimaginable. In the aftermath, the story survived not through monuments or ruins, but through memory, carried across generations by those who heard whispers of the sunken empire. Solon heard it in Egypt. Plato recorded it in Greece. And through him, the legend spread to countless minds, sparking curiosity for thousands of years. Isn't it astonishing how a single tale can endure long after the world it describes has vanished? As centuries unfolded, explorers searched the seas, scholars debated, and dreamers wondered what secrets might lie beneath the waves. The mystery of Atlantis became a mirror reflecting human hopes and fears. Some saw it as a lost paradise, others as a warning about the dangers of arrogance. But all who encountered the tale felt its pull. Something about a brilliant empire sinking beneath the ocean stirs the imagination in ways few legends can. And even now, the question lingers. Was Atlantis a real place, or a symbolic story crafted to teach a moral truth? Perhaps it was both, rooted in history but shaped by philosophy. Perhaps it was neither, existing only in the realm of myth. Or perhaps pieces of its memory still sleep in the deep ocean, untouched by time. Yet regardless of where one stands, one truth remains clear. The story endures because it resonates. A civilization blessed with abundance, undone by its own excess, swept away by forces greater than itself. It is a narrative that crosses cultures, a reminder that greatness is fragile, and history remembers not only triumphs but warnings. And as the waves rolled over the last remnants of Atlantis, the ancient world changed forever. Long after the island vanished beneath the sea, its memory refused to fade. Those who lived in distant lands retold fragments of the story, unsure whether they were preserving fact or echoing the imagination of their ancestors. Still, the tale persisted, softened by time, reshaped by voices, yet never fully lost. Why does a story survive when its world has disappeared? Perhaps because something within it continues to stir a quiet curiosity in every generation that hears it. As ages passed, new civilizations rose and fell. Empires flourished, rebuilt, reinvented themselves. But the account of a place swallowed by the ocean lingered like a shadow on the edge of collective memory. Many dismissed it as fantasy. Others believed it held a truth waiting to be rediscovered. That tension, the pull between doubt and longing, gave Atlantis its power. People were drawn to the idea that somewhere beneath the waves might rest a memory of humanity's distant past. In time, scholars attempted to decipher Plato's intent. Some argued that he crafted the story as an allegory, a moral illustration of what happens when a society loses its virtue. They suggested the island represented any civilization that drifts from wisdom into indulgence. Others insisted he was describing a real place, its legacy preserved through oral tradition older than Greece itself. The debate became a tapestry of theories, each one weaving together reason, imagination, and the search for meaning. Later, as explorers launched voyages across wide oceans, they wondered whether unknown lands might hold clues to the vanished empire. Some believed Atlantis might lie in the Atlantic, shattered and buried under centuries of sediment. Others pointed toward Mediterranean regions devastated by ancient disasters. There were whispers of sunken cities near volcanic islands, ruins hidden by rising waters, and mysterious sites that seemed too advanced for their era. Though many theories contradicted one another, they all stemmed from one desire: the hope of finding even a fragment of the legendary realm. The idea of Atlantis grew larger than the island itself. It became a symbol of possibilities buried beneath time. Travelers spoke of strange rock formations rising from the seafloor that looked too precise to be natural. Fishermen told of ruins glimpsed through clear water on calm days. Scientists studied seismic activity, searching for evidence of ancient quakes that could have shattered a great island. Could any of these hints point to the place Plato described, or were they simply coincidences transformed by wishful thinking? Whether or not Atlantis physically existed, its influence shaped countless stories in the centuries that followed. Writers used the legend as a canvas for their imagination, painting worlds of advanced cultures, forgotten technologies, and mysterious powers. Artists created images of radiant cities rising from the mist. Philosophers used Atlantis to discuss the dangers of pride, the fragility of prosperity, and the consequences of losing balance. The legend became a mirror, reflecting whatever each century longed for or feared. Still, beneath all the layers of myth and interpretation, the core of the story remains hauntingly simple: a great civilization, gifted with abundance, destroyed not only by nature but by its own choices. That dual tragedy resonates because it feels timeless. Even now, when we see cities rise with glittering ambition, the story of Atlantis whispers to us, asking whether strength alone is enough to guarantee survival. Have we learned from the past, or do we repeat patterns without realizing it? As centuries unfolded, explorers ventured deeper into the ocean than ever before. Submersibles plunged into darkness, carrying lights that revealed strange landscapes sculpted by time. Undersea mountains rose like forgotten monuments. Valleys stretched across the ocean floor like scars left by some ancient upheaval. And scattered among these formations were stones and shapes that fueled speculation. Were they natural, or were they remnants of something built long ago? The sea kept its secrets, offering just enough intrigue to keep the legend alive. In certain places, divers discovered what looked like roads carved into stone, stair-like formations descending into deep blue shadows. Some believed they were geological coincidences. Others thought they were traces of long-lost cultures drowned by rising tides. Each discovery added another thread to the tapestry. The mystery endured because nothing conclusively disproved the existence of Atlantis. And in the absence of certainty, imagination thrives. Over the years, scientists analyzed ancient eruptions, massive tsunamis, and catastrophic events that reshaped entire regions. One such event was the eruption of a volcanic island in the Aegean Sea, so violent that it obliterated a thriving civilization. The remnants of that disaster inspired many to connect it to the Atlantean legend. Could Plato have retold a distant memory of such a catastrophe, expanding it through philosophical storytelling? Or was this only one of many events similar to the destruction he described? Other researchers looked to different coasts, from Europe to the Americas, tracing clues in folklore. Many cultures carry stories of floods, sunken kingdoms, or powerful societies destroyed by natural forces. The similarities are striking. Could these stories be distant reflections of a shared ancient memory? Or do humans simply turn to water as a metaphor for loss and transformation, repeating the same themes across time? As each era revisited the legend, new questions surfaced. Perhaps the mystery's endurance stems not from whether Atlantis physically existed, but from what it represents. People are drawn to the idea of a place where knowledge and creativity flourished beyond anything known today. A civilization advanced not through modern technology but through wisdom, balance, and deep harmony with nature. The thought that such a world might have existed and vanished touches something both hopeful and bittersweet. Imagine if fragments of Atlantean culture somehow survived through migration, passed on quietly through generations, influencing communities far from the original island. Could ancient practices, architectural styles, or forgotten symbols carry echoes of that distant society? It's a tempting idea, one that invites the imagination to trace obscure connections across continents. Whether these theories hold truth or not, they reveal how deeply the legend has woven itself into human storytelling. Still, the sea holds its silence. Its depths remain largely unexplored, covering mountains, valleys, and possible ruins that may never surface. The vastness of the ocean leaves room for wonder. Perhaps that is why the story refuses to settle into certainty. It remains suspended between fact and myth, allowing each listener to draw their own conclusion. And sometimes, the beauty of a mystery lies in its refusal to answer definitively. Even now, when we stand on the shore and watch waves roll endlessly, it's easy to imagine that beneath those shifting surfaces lies the memory of an empire lost to time. The water moves as it did thousands of years ago, erasing footprints, reshaping coastlines, and holding secrets in its deep blue quiet. What else might be hidden down there, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself? Atlantis may have vanished in a single day and night, but its story continues to ripple across millennia. And as long as humanity seeks meaning, connection, and wonder, the lost world will never truly disappear. As the legend echoed through time, people everywhere began projecting their own hopes and fears onto the story. Some imagined Atlantis as a realm of unmatched wisdom, where knowledge flowed as freely as water through its canals. Others pictured it as a cautionary tale, a reminder that even the most radiant societies can dim when virtue fades. Yet, despite the countless interpretations, one feeling remained constant: the desire to understand what truly lay behind the ancient account. Why does the human spirit cling to mysteries like this one, searching for meaning in places long swallowed by the sea? Over the centuries, the story grew so compelling that entire movements were inspired by it. Some sought to recreate the supposed ideals of Atlantean harmony. Others believed the lost civilization held forgotten abilities, technologies, or philosophies that could reshape the modern world if recovered. The legend inspired novels, theories, expeditions, and dreams. It became a bridge between ancient memory and future possibility, connecting hearts across eras. But perhaps its greatest power lies not in what it describes, but in what it invites us to imagine. Many thinkers pointed out that Plato's description of Atlantis was not merely a tale of downfall. It was a study of contrasts, a society that began in balance and ended in excess. The shift from humility to arrogance marked the turning point. Their greatest achievements became shadows of themselves when detached from the values that once upheld them. Every era faces similar challenges, and that is why the story still feels strangely relevant. Could the fall of Atlantis mirror the cyclical patterns of human nature, repeating in ways we don't always recognize? Others believed the legend symbolized the fragility of life. A flourishing world, radiant and powerful, erased in a moment. Such a sudden transformation reminds us that nothing is immune to change. Civilizations, no matter how impressive, exist within a larger natural system that can shift without warning. Perhaps the destruction of Atlantis serves as a reflection of nature's unpredictable force, a reminder that beneath our achievements lies a planet capable of reshaping itself at any moment. Yet even as the legend warns of impermanence, it also speaks of renewal. Sunken lands give rise to new ecosystems. Lost stories spark new interpretations. Each generation breathes fresh life into the myth, ensuring it never fades. And because the island itself remains hidden, the imagination is free to chart its own version of the world beneath the waves. Maybe this endless reimagining is the real reason the tale survives. It allows every listener to participate in the mystery, to create their own vision of what once existed. In quiet moments, some people wonder what it would have felt like to walk through the Atlantean capital during its peak. Streets shimmering with orichalcum, markets filled with sounds of distant cultures, gardens nourished by intricate waterworks that brought life to every corner. There must have been laughter, conversation, celebration, moments of ordinary happiness woven into the grandeur. Even the greatest civilizations are built from everyday lives, filled with hopes no different from our own. Perhaps that is why the loss feels so profound. It reminds us that even the brightest worlds are inhabited by people with dreams, fears, and stories that vanish when the land falls silent. And yet, silence never claimed Atlantis completely. The sea may have taken the island, but memory preserved its essence. The myth traveled far beyond Greece, slipping into literature, music, and art across cultures. It became a symbol of something distant yet familiar, an echo of greatness, a whisper of warning, a spark of possibility. The story refused to settle into a single interpretation because it resonated on so many levels. It touched logic, imagination, emotion, and wonder all at once. Today, the ocean still guards its mystery with vast, indifferent patience. Technology allows us to explore deeper than ever before, yet the seafloor remains largely uncharted. Thousands of miles of underwater terrain hold secrets untouched for millennia. Somewhere in those shadows might rest ruins shaped by ancient hands, or perhaps only natural formations that mimic human design. The truth may emerge one day, or it may remain forever concealed. Either possibility carries its own sense of wonder. Some believe Atlantis will eventually reveal itself, unlocked by advancing tools and expanding knowledge. Others think its power lies precisely in its ambiguity, that it must remain hidden to continue inspiring generations. And maybe that is the beauty of it. The story adapts to each era, reflecting not only the past but the dreams of the present. Whether Atlantis was real or metaphorical matters less than the impact it has made on countless minds through time. As you drift deeper into this story, consider how legends shape the way we see the world. Some tales fade because they offer nothing more than entertainment. Others endure because they speak to something universal, something within us that longs for discovery, understanding, and connection. Atlantis is one of those rare stories that expands the boundaries of imagination. It invites us to ponder history, nature, possibility, and ourselves. Even now, as waves continue their ancient rhythm, there is a strange comfort in imagining a world lost to the sea, yet not entirely forgotten. Atlantis may be unreachable, but its message is not. It reminds us to value balance, humility, and wisdom. It encourages us to question what legacies we build and what stories we leave behind. Most of all, it shows that even when something disappears, the memory of it can illuminate ages far beyond its time. And as the legend settles around you like a gentle tide, let its echoes lull you into rest. Atlantis rose, flourished, faltered, and vanished, yet the essence of its story still drifts among us. Some mysteries fade, but others remain because they hold pieces of truth woven into myth. This is one of them, a tale that deeply stirs the imagination, drawing us into a world just out of reach. Before you drift off completely, remember to like the video and support Sleepy Owl, where stories like this continue to unfold in calm, soothing waves. And as you settle into deeper relaxation, take with you this quiet reflection: even worlds lost to time can guide us, reminding us that wonder never truly disappears. The sea may cover many things, but it cannot drown the stories that live on within us. And so, the tale of Atlantis becomes not just a legend of the past, but a companion for the present, a gentle echo that invites you to breathe, to dream, and to drift into peaceful rest. Some worlds vanish, yet their stories continue. Perhaps that is the real magic of Atlantis. It endures in the space between memory and imagination, where dreams are born and mysteries never fade.